We're joined live by criminal defense lawyer Ari Goldkind. Thanks for joining us here live on CP24, Ari. Let's start with Peter Nygard. What is the latest on this? It feels like it's been going on for years now.
Well, according to the history of this, he's been doing this for years. His defense team is very heavily pushing back and saying, no, he hasn't. We all know this is in the midst of a very big class action suit in the States, which a number of the complainants that are actually in the Toronto courthouse testifying are part of. Complainant 4 is on the stand as we speak, just coming back from lunch. Cross-examination I expect to happen shortly this afternoon. Complainant number 2, in my view, was the strongest witness against Mr. Nygard at this point, provided some very, very compelling, I thought, believable testimony. I think his defense team had much more success with complainant number 3, and I think likely will with complainant number 4. But complainant number 2 was a 16-year-old who provided so many interesting and extraordinary details. I think those details may be quite persuasive to a jury.
And so we also, earlier days during the Nygard trial, that they had someone who was talking about the physiological reactions to trauma. We reported it, but why do they have someone like that to talk about the physiological effects of trauma? Why was that? Why were they
sure,
there?
And that expert, just for viewers to know, is the same person who testified in the Jacob Hogarth-Headley trial, for people who remember that, because there were suggestions that the women after these events acted in bizarre ways, wanted to keep seeing him. People will remember hallmarks of that from Gomeshi, which was a very high-profile trial that didn't go the way most people thought. As a defense lawyer, I have real problem with this kind of evidence. It's called expert evidence about trauma, memories, that nobody responds the same way to the same thing. Obviously, advocates on the other side will say, no, this is very important. I tend to view that evidence being called for an expert to say, look, no matter how the person acted, you can't assume anything from it. I tend to view that as something the Crown does when their case is not as strong as other cases. But that's my defense lawyer view. But that's certainly somebody that the Crown has called in this case. I understand why. But when you look again at complainant number 2, 16 years old at the time of this historical allegation, I think those allegations will stay with the jury for some time.
All right, now to the Nathaniel Veltman case. They're on the defense now, and they're saying they're bringing in, first of all, they're saying they haven't proven beyond the reasonable doubt, the Crown. So what are they missing here?
Well, I think that's probably not something the jury's going to agree with. I think ultimately the jury is not going to have a difficult time in this case. But as we speak, Nathaniel Veltman is on the stand. That's a bit of a bombshell. I don't know that too many people would have bet that he would take the stand in his own defense. And just to bring people up to speed, he has testified he had a very bad childhood. His mom spanked him. His mom was a religious zealot. He had OCD and perhaps autism, which people in Toronto will remember was Alec Manassian's defense. And that really led to a lot of raised eyebrows, including from people with autism who responded by saying, wait, what? That's being used? You combine that with a manifesto, him bragging about doing this, talking about using a truck so that other people would think, use a truck to do this in this terrible, monstrous tragedy. Later, there will also be an expert called to talk about hallucinogenic substances he was using that day in early childhood experiences, which always factor into the mix of an adult. Somebody comes from somewhere, their background, but at the end of the day, I still think the Crown will have a relatively simple time of meeting the elements in this case.
But they're also bringing in a clinical psychologist as well. Are you suggesting they're going to use those past experiences, the way he grew up, in a way to say this is why he is who he is on that day, on that fateful, tragic day?
Yes, the clinical psychologist is well known to those of us who works in the court. He's a very brilliant man. He will be testifying. I think the Crown will obviously have a very serious go at him cross-examination-wise, but he'll be testifying about the effects of Mr. Veltman's mother, a tough upbringing, very religious zealot, a lot of spanking, OCD, autism. Again, I think a lot of people watching this will be, particularly in this era and day and age, will that be enough to have a jury sort of forgive or give the benefit of the doubt to a manifesto, a terrorist alleged act that was simply done for a religious and political purpose? I think it will probably go into the mix, and the defense will do the best they can with what is inarguably a very difficult case for a defense lawyer. But when your client wants to testify, that's his choice. I still don't think this will be the world's toughest decision for a jury.
All right, Ari Goldkind, always appreciate your time on a very busy day. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.